mean, you had your chance and then you blew it.
That is the most absurd statement of the year.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, baby.
I'm in my zone, I'm feeling it.
Live from Rock Solid Studios in Granite Falls, it's time for MinneZona Sports, live with DJ Matty C. and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live. We are back. Yes, absolutely, we are back. It's time for episode 63. We've got a lot to get to, and without further ado, I'm your host, DJ Matty C, a.k.a. Matt Callie, a.k.a. Matty C, etc., etc., etc. And all the way from Macon, Minnesota, from the Woods and Shore Studios, Paul Voldy, the Shield. What's going on there, Shield?
Look, happy Cinco de Mayo to everybody. Obviously, I got the number 5 jersey hanging over my head right now for my boy Nomar Garcia-Parra on the 5th of May, the 5th month of the year. I think everybody's just ready to see what we're going to do for Voldy's Virtues. We already know what's going to happen, and I'm ready for all the backlash. Let's do this. Let's get some people on the Edelman train for the Hall of Fame. If not, everybody's going to be missing out once he does get the call to Canton. I'm just saying. But we got a lot to get to tonight. Going to be a great show.
It's going to be a fantastic show, and Victor's already tuned in. He's saying, "What up, boys? What up, Victor? What's
up, Victor?
Thanks for coming and watching us, and it's going to be a fun one. Before we get to Voldy's Virtues, we got to do Tater Top hot take because there's a lot of controversy going on, but the draft also happened as well. We got to recap a little of that, too. So we're going to get to that with Tater Tot Hot Take. But stay with us. Voldy's Virtues. Voldy believes Julian Edelman should be in the Hall of Fame. Just keep tuned in. If you want to go toe-to-toe with Voldy, he's ready for you. Okay? He's absolutely ready for you. So we'll be ready to go. So we're looking forward to it. All right, Voldy, like I said, let's get things going with some Tater Tot hot take.
Fresh out of the oven, it's Tater Tot Hot Take.
It is fresh out of the oven. It's Tater Tot Hot Take. Glancy's ready for you, apparently. Can we skip to the part where Voldy gets all that smoke? We'll get there. I need some opinions first before we get to the Edelman deal. So, without further ado, Voldy, let's get things going. We got 3 things we got to iron out. One being just a quick recap of what we thought of the picks for the Vikes. And then not only that, we got to get to RG3, Mr. Product of the System, his comments on Kirk Cousins and everything along those lines. And also, we're getting to A-Rod. We're getting to Aaron Rodgers because things aren't going well in Green Bay, and we are loving every second of it, so let's get it rolling. All right, Voldy. So, a lot of things happened during the draft. We talked about it with Mikey. The Vikings, we thought O-line, as always, and that's what happened. Now, we all thought, Voldy, even you, myself, we thought, maybe Elijah Vera Tucker, he's probably the guy that they're going to take. He was taken at 14, just not by the Vikings.
Yep.
The Vikings, Slick Rick, decided to trade back like, Slick Rick does, and we get none other than Christian Darrisaw, and I want to make note, Mikey, that was on Mikey's list of guys that they should take. And they got him. We got a left tackle. We have a line for the Kirk Doctor, myself, and Voldy here on MinneZona Sports Live. So let's start off with Christian Darrisaw. We're not gonna go through every single player, but we're gonna probably Mon's gonna be the biggest one, and then even Wyatt Davis too. I think is big name as well. And we'll bring up, the rest of the guys here very briefly because we got a lot to get to. So, Voldy, your thoughts on the Vikings taking Christian Darrisaw at 23, not 14?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we talked about last week with Mikey. That was going to be another guy. If Vera Tucker was going to get taken before that, well, unfortunately, the Vikings decided to make the move to send him down to, move down in the draft as well. Well, the Jets ended up getting Vera Tucker for that 14 spot, which, I mean, obviously, you got to be able to protect a young quarterback when they draft Zach Wilson. So they addressed that concern right off the top. And then with Darrisaw, too, I think that's a pretty stable pick that we can go with at 23 there for the Vikings. I mean, not a whole lot of negatives you can say about that.
There's really not a whole lot of many negatives with him. He didn't allow a sack in 2020, I believe, during his career with Virginia Tech, coming off that season. But Darrisaw, this fills the need, and there's some people, and I know some of these people that thought, well, if Justin Fields, why didn't they trade up to get Justin Fields? They didn't want him enough to do that. The Bears already had this planned out from the beginning. And they got Justin Fields, okay? The Vikings were going to take Fields if he fell to 14. If he fell, then they'd take him. Now, did they want him bad enough? No, apparently not, okay? So let's not get on the whole, they could have had Justin Fields. They missed an opportunity. Let's see him play first. And it's the same thing with Darrisaw, Voldy. I mean, we have to see him play first, but, signs are pointing that it's going to go well. So there's that to consider too. So we'll see what happens with Darrisaw. But the big day 2, Voldy. Day 2 was Kellen Mond's day. I mean, wow. I had a feeling that they were going to, address the quarterback position. And they did with Kellen Mond. There's a lot to like about Mond. He's very mobile, things like that. There are some tendencies where he looks a little robotic in the pocket, which I think can be helped over time, and he can learn and things like that. And I wouldn't worry about Kirk, guys. Kirk's our starter. Don't worry about that. That's what we got. So, Voldy, your thoughts on the Vikings taking Kellen Mond, 3rd round? What do you think?
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting pick, but especially with the current second and third string quarterback situation, you need as much talent as you can get because of the fact that, obviously Kellen Mond presents a good possibility for the Vikings and him probably sitting behind a couple of years before making any serious attempts at maybe getting a starting job. I mean, you got to have something for the future, I think, and that's one of those long-term goals that may pay off for the Vikings here in the near future, hopefully.
Yeah, I think so too. And, Victor says Mond is a good development plan. And that's exactly how I look at it as well. Good development plan. Let's see where it goes. And if he's not good enough, then he's not good enough. But at the same time, let's see how things go. They're not Spielman already said, don't worry about Mond taking over for Kirk. If you think that Mond's going to take over for Kirk, this year, I seriously doubt that. Absolutely. It'd probably be up for absurd statement if you said that. But we like what we see from Mond. Okay, before we get to the whole RG3 comments real quick, in the 3rd round, they draft a linebacker. I think that's another big need with Chaz Surratt from North Carolina. Wyatt Davis is a guy that I think could probably start, week 1, depending on how things go. It's going to be a competition, but we'll see. Edge rusher Patrick Jones is a guy I think we like here too. Kene Nwangu from Iowa State, good kick returner. They addressed the kick returner spot. Amir Smith-Marset is another guy as well that could be a wide receiver 3 too. And, edge rusher Jalen Twyman, who's another good it looks like he's listed as an edge, so we'll go from there. And Janarius Robinson, another edge. So I don't think they're saying, well, Daniil's not coming back. I think they're adding depth at the edge rusher because they need guys that can rush the passer. So can't forget that. Cameron Bynum, another guy that'll be a safety as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they do with that. Okay, let's get to Mr. Product of the System, Voldy.
Oh,
you know, it's funny when he criticizes people because, you know, he thinks he's all high and mighty. He thinks, well, you know, no matter what I say, you know, people will take me seriously, things like that. You can't take this guy seriously, especially what he said about Kirk Cousins. Yeah, I can tell you that number 8 in Minnesota is not real happy right now because Kellen Mond represents exactly what he doesn't do well. Kellen Mond is big, physical quarterback. He can run it, throw it all over the field. I don't think that's something his 8 is able to do in Cousins in Minnesota, which, again, he's got a point with that. But the one thing that's this is where I get a little peeved. As you've seen, Cousins has been collecting checks there in Minnesota for a long time, taking them to 8-8, 9-7 season. If he has a bad start to the year like he did last year, I could see the fans, maybe the organization, leaning toward Mond if he comes in and impresses. Well, Mr. Product of the System. Voldy, I need your thoughts first. I want the Zoners' thoughts as well. So what are your thoughts on Mr. Product of the System's comments here?
You know, he talks a lot of trash for basically being more than a glorified backup nowadays. He's riding the pine for Lamar Jackson right now, and a guy who lost his job to Kirk Cousins as well.
Yep.
Again, talking all that trash for a guy who ended up getting beat by the guy that's now collecting all these checks in Minnesota. I will definitely say the fact that, you know, Kirk Cousins in a couple of years will definitely be in a hot seat situation, to which point that Kellen Mond is the guy. That's the long-term plan with the Vikings. But, you know, if it gets off to a bad start this year, I don't see any foreseeable reason of why the Vikings go anywhere else besides Kirk Cousins, because we've been saying it, we don't have much of anything else behind Kirk Cousins as well. We're going to go to Sean Mannion. I don't even know who you're going to go to.
Sean freaking Mannion.
Jake Browning, if he's still
Nate
with the
Stanley?
team. Yeah, Nate Stanley. You got to go to him. Honestly, I just don't see the fact of right now that anybody but Kirk Cousins starts for the Vikings overall. But I just like the fact that Robert Griffin III is still trying to make himself relevant, considering a guy he couldn't even make it out of Cleveland with a starting job, let alone out of basically Baltimore now, where he's collecting checks, if anything, just trying to get himself in another relevant enough position to maybe find a different team. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
You know, the Zoners are really teeing off on RG3 right now, and I'm loving every second of it. I sent some tweets, Voldy. I sent some tweets, Zoners, to RG3, letting him know what person took his job. I understand, you know, the whole deal with his injuries and things like that. But RG3 needs to learn how to slide. He never learned. He never learned that trick. They told him to do that. He didn't do it. But here's where it gets interesting. He makes these comments and he's very critical. And he says, you know, Mond is mobile. Yes, that's true. You should have stopped there. Mond is definitely more mobile than Kirk. That's true. But is he better? Hell no. First of all, RG3 cannot talk in this instance. He cannot talk and say, he's always cashing checks and only leading them to 8-9-9. Well, guess what, idiot? It's a team sport. Victor already talked about it. You know, that's why I love the Zoners. It's a team sport. Some people seem to forget that. You know, Tom Brady didn't just go out there and win the Super Bowl by himself, Voldy. You know, he had weapons. He had Mike Evans. He had Chris Scott. He had a good defense. It's a team sport. And RG3 seems to forget that. And RG3, might I add too, is his comments absolutely, you know, he had to think before he spoke. And he didn't. He really didn't, because if he's going to criticize Kirk Cousins, he better hit on all fronts. He missed. He took a shot and missed. Kirk Cousins has had a better career than Robert Griffin III. He had one good rookie season. Kirk Cousins has had a multitude of seasons. Look at the stats. Look at what Kirk's done for the Vikings, RG3. You clearly haven't seen what he's done. Because guess what? You're just still salty because he took your job, buddy. You're still salty because he took your job. So sit down, shut up. Next time you want to talk about Kirk, put some respect on his name. Damn right. All right. Let's look at somewhat of the zoners said, okay? Jimbo, our guy. Kirk is the man for the next 2 years unless he gets hurt. Exactly. Bingo. Glance. I think any GM would take Manning over RG3 right now. RG3 just needs to sit back and chill. What does he mean by Manning? What? Maybe he's
probably Eli.
Is he saying Eli? Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. Cooper Manning.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Who knows? Don't forget.
Whichever, the young one, the 16-year-old that's tearing up that one probably.
Okay, I see. Don't forget, RG3 didn't just lose his spot; he lost his office. Okay. RG3's comments mean nothing, and I absolutely agree with that, Victor. RG3 needs to worry about getting off the bench before taking a shot at anyone. That's true. He was on the bench for the Ravens, and he didn't do jack. You know what? I mean, besides he was in for a game and he sucked. So he can just watch it. Kirk Cousins has a better Hall of Fame resume than Julian Edelman. Yeah, Voldy, I said it. It's already started, Voldy.
Count the goddamn rings. Count the rings.
Well, for one thing, I hope Tom stays because we're getting to Voldy's virtues here soon. But at the same time, his comments mean nothing to me. RG3 has been a bust his whole career. And next time he wants to talk about Kirk, just remember who took his job. That was Kirk Cousins. So he can just stay out of this. All right. Let's get to Hedges. Rodgers wants OUT out of Green Bay. What news coming out? I think it was Wednesday that this news broke. Adam Schefter broke the news, and all of a sudden, everyone starts losing their minds. And they did. They absolutely did. So Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to be in Green Bay anymore, Voldy. There's been a lot of drama. There's been a lot of things said. Rodgers has called the GM Jerry Krause. I mean, that is something too. Okay, so Voldy, what are your thoughts on this whole situation?
It's a damn soap opera is what's happening right now. It's just getting ridiculous. You knew as soon as they went to go kick the field goal, take the ball out of Rodgers' hands, you knew the other shoe was going to drop. And especially Matt LaFleur going for the percentage of just saying, let's get points as opposed to let's go for it, try and tie the game. Yeah. I just found it hilarious when they decided to do that. And that I knew that it was going to happen, especially the whole time Aaron Rodgers staying radio silent on the whole situation overall, not saying anything whatsoever. And then it's just like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to come back. Then he did the whole Jeopardy thing, which he did really well on. He's a smart guy. He knows he's got things beyond football that he could be working on as well. That was just another cool thing that he did. But obviously now that we get closer and closer, the whole draft situation, and then going on to the fact now, looking at workouts and OTAs and then training camp before too long here as we're in the month of May now. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how things kind of turn out, but I'm just loving every second of it. The more controversy out of Green Bay, the better, because the Vikings are just sitting back and they're just watching it the whole time saying, that's a shame.
We got to find that GIF again, Voldy. I think you might have put it on there. Oh, no. It's the Seinfeld one. Jerry Seinfeld yep. With the popcorn.
There eating the popcorn. That's a shame.
Yeah, that's a shame. Curve Doctors, before I get into it, Green Bay should have got some trade insurance from State Farm.
Should have gotten it from Drake. From
They
State
should.
Farm.
Drake, yeah, that's true. That commercials have been playing a lot. Curve Doctor, that was one of your good ones. I'll give you that. Just a quick update. Wild to the power play. Okay, good.
There we go.
That's good. Because we're getting to the Wild after I give my a spiel on this whole Rodgers thing. You're right, Voldy. I am loving it. I am absolutely loving it. Bears fans are even loving it. Lions fans are even loving it. The Zoners are loving it. But there are some Zoners that aren't loving it. And you know who that is, Voldy? That's the Coom Daddy. We love Coom. I love Coom. And then you got Matt Metzler, who's in denial, by the way. I should say, every article that I've sent to Matt Metzler, he says, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know what's going on. He's upset, Mets. Just admit it. He's upset, okay? Now, don't keep coming at me and saying, well, we don't know. You might want to come back. There are people saying there is a less than 5% chance he starts week 1 for the Green Bay Packers. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out there. So there's a lot of people saying, if we don't see anything by June 2nd, the Packers take on a big cap hit. Just saying. So, you gotta look at it from that perspective. Now, if the teams that are looking at them, Denver, I know Denver would probably be interested. You got Teddy B, obviously, but more on that in the array. But then you have Las Vegas. I think, I tell you what, man, I'd like some Aaron Rodgers on the Las Vegas Raiders, man. It's going to be amazing. But I could see that. At the same time, I just think that Rodgers wants when they drafted Jordan Love in the first round last year, that, I think, was the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, the Packers did get to the NFC Championship game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, yes, they did lose. But Rodgers had an MVP season and said, what are you guys going to do for me now?
Right.
They didn't do anything. They didn't do jack, you know what. They literally did not do anything. So now, look where things are at. Rodgers is unhappy. He's engaged to Shailene Woodley, I think. And which
still baffles me.
It still does. I mean, it really does.
Hey, good for the both of them.
Well, yeah. I mean, no, that's fine. And, wherever he gets traded, it's got to be to the AFC. I really hope it's going to the AFC. And if it's going to an AFC team, I would hope it'd be a team that the Vikings aren't playing for a while, Packers, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact that Rodgers is kind of subtly telling his teammates, I'm not coming back, I don't want to be here, things like that, that just tells you that the Green Bay organization is on the brink of collapse. I said it here first. They are on the brink of collapse. So, anyway, let's get to the Zoners. Then we're going to get to the Wild here because playoffs are coming up. All right, everyone in the league is loving it, aside from them in Wisconsin or a cheesehead. Yeah, that's relatively true. I'm going to take the under on the 5%. Okay, I can respect that. We'll see. Matt said, I never said Rodgers isn't upset. The clock started when they drafted Love. It didn't seem like that when I was talking with you, Mets. It didn't seem like that. I don't know. If the Packers would trade him, it'd be next season, when the guaranteed money runs out. But he might just say, I might just leave money on the table. I don't want to play for you guys. So there's that too.
He's got enough money to worry about.
Yeah.
He is all right.
So those are our spiel on that. We'll probably get into it more as the weeks go on. So we got that to look at and keep an eye on. All right, let's get to the Wild. They had one hell of a game on Monday, Voldy, coming back and beating the Golden Knights. Dollar Bill Carrill, man. He has changed this the way that the team has been going. And as it says in the lower third, let's go Wilds, baby. Voldy, what are your thoughts on the Wild? That comeback win. They're playing right now. They're on the power play. It was a great game, and let's get going with some playoffs. I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, are they going to make a run? What do you think?
I think they can make a run, but the Wild are a very monkey see, monkey do kind of team.
Sure.
One night, they win 8-1. Then the next night they play the same team, they lose 8-1. Team scores 3 goals in the third period, ends up winning in overtime. The next time they play, the Wild score 3 third period goals, end up winning in overtime. It's just one of those that just makes it very interesting because of the fact that they're a very flip-floppy team. When they're on, they're on. But when they're off, oh, baby, they are off.
Yeah.
If you could have said at this point of the season, at the beginning of the year, when they went through COVID, all the COVID problems, and they couldn't score a power play goal to save their lives, I would have said them making the playoffs would have been a horrible, horrible call to make. At that point, we're just like, let's just get, Kaprizov, the rookie of the year, and feel good about ourselves. This team's got a legitimate chance. They got 2 strong goaltenders to make, a good serious run. If one of them has a bad night, well, they've got a guy that can back them up and has a little bit of life. All 4 lines are scoring and just continue to impress with each night that goes by. Guys that are stepping up big time. Obviously, we know some of the bigger names like Matt Dumba. He's picked things up as of late. Kaprizov. Nick Bonino has really turned things on as of late. Zuccarello and, Foligno as well. Those guys have remained as consistent as they can at this point of the season. I could see them making a serious run as long as A and B, they don't ever play the Avalanche again, and they don't ever play the Blues again. Besides those 2 teams, they can make a serious run in the playoffs.
I'm loving it right about now because they're playing really well so far, according to our zoners. We appreciate the updates, Victor, and as well as Mets. It's getting physical tonight. Even the Thrill is throwing fists. Let's go. Let's go. And that's the thing, is they're not backing down from the Vegas Golden Knights. I think they're going to make a run as well, Voldy. Line brawl, kind of. Okay. And that's, we can't see it. I mean, that's the thing. They're going after Kirill. And I don't doubt that. I mean, they can't. The thing is they can't afford to lose Kirill. And, that's what the Vegas Knights are doing. They're going after Kirill. They're going after our guy. The thing is Kirill took White Cloud down. I love it.
Good.
See, that's the grit. That's what I want to see with the Wild. I think they're going to make a run. And honestly, I think you have to cap this as a successful season if they get farther than the first round, which I really hope they do. I really hope they get past the first round, and they will. I feel like I'm feeling very confident in this team. Guys are scoring at will. And the thing is whenever they get down, like you said, Voldy, sometimes when they're down, they stay down a little bit. Now they're fighting back. Now they're throwing punches. They're getting into brawls and things like that. This is a rivalry now. This is a big rivalry, and I'm loving every second of it. I mean, Kirill, the Thrill, has been fantastic. We've said it on multiple occasions. Dollar Bill Kirill. And this team is just, it's almost, it's something I haven't seen before. It's something the zoners haven't seen before either. And the big difference is I think it's Kirill the Thrill, man. And obviously moving on from we love Mikko Koivu. Moving on from the older guys, things like that, adding. And we got Voldy coming up. We got Marco Rossi coming up. I mean, things are looking good for the Wild. I think they're going to make a big run. The playoffs are coming up. Let's get it pumped up around here. Let's go. Let's go Wild. Let's go as Wilds. This is some BS. Kirill got a 5-minute and is now being reviewed. How can you give Kirill the Thrill a 5-minute? Major?
Come on, guy. Head contact. I don't know.
Stupid.
Intent.
Lame.
I don't know.
Lame. All right.
Challenge.
Voldy, are you ready?
I'm ready.
You're ready. All right. It is time for Voldy's Virtues. You guys know what's coming. We're talking about Voldy is giving his pitch why Julian Edelman should be in the Hall of Fame. I implore the zoners to make comments. If you disagree with Voldy, please let us know. I will be ready. I will be ready to go for you guys. So let's head to the Temple of Wisdom for Voldy's Virtues.
He has emerged from the Temple of Wisdom. Gather round for Voldy's Virtues.
All right. Well, update on the sad, isn't it? There's that big brawl. I mean, it's getting crazy around there with the Wild. But Voldy, it's time. It's time. I posted this before we got going this afternoon. Wanted to post it for the zoners and whatnot. But Jules, call to the hall. And one other thing before you get going, Voldy. I got my popcorn ready. So zoners, feel free to chime in. Voldy, enlighten us with your knowledge.
Well, listen up, all you turd baskets. I'm about to drop some knowledge on everybody here tonight as well. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say this. This isn't going to be one of those I'm an expert on everything, talking about numbers comparative to other Hall of Famers, potential guys that could go to the Hall of Fame. This is all strictly speaking, looking at numbers as they are, where they stack up all time, and my personal feelings about it. You may disagree with me. That's fine. That's what this show is about. But let's not take away from the fact that this guy, Julian Edelman, had a 0% chance of going anywhere, let alone out of high school, let alone out of college, let alone in the NFL, and has been fighting his whole way to get to this point with retirement. Now, it can also be said that out of his time in the NFL, maybe played about half his career fully healthy, which is understandable in a position where a small white wide receiver in the slot, going over the middle, making hellacious catches, being a punt returner, you basically have a giant bullseye plastered all over you. And he made it work. Now, for all those who think that Julian Edelman is not Hall of Fame worthy or up for consideration, you definitely need to take a good look in the mirror, take a couple of moments, look in the mirror, and then promptly slap yourself silly for about 5 to 10 minutes, just so that you can reevaluate your whole living situation. Let's take it back. Now, Kent State, not exactly a football powerhouse. A couple of players come out of there in some time. Remember Joshua Cribbs, the college quarterback, ended up being one of the great return men for the Cleveland Browns in his time, also as a wide receiver too. Well, 7th round draft pick out of Kent State as a quarterback in 2009. Never played wide receiver, did Julian Edelman. Worked his way to get into a position to at least make the team. Well, couple of players leave, that being the likes of Wes Welker and also Randy Moss. So it's safe to say that Julian Edelman's going to have to be the guy. They did experiment with a whole bunch of other cast characters, but there's only one person that stuck around in the entire time. That was Julian Edelman. Now, looking at the numbers overall, 620 career receptions, second all-time in New England. 6,822 receiving yards, 36 receiving touchdowns, 4 return touchdowns, most all-time in New England as well. Not to also mention the fact that played in 5 Super Bowls, 3-time Super Bowl MVP, was the MVP in the snore fest that was Super Bowl 53, still came out with the best performance in that contest overall. And we talk about this because of the fact that, not the huge gaudy numbers that we are accustomed to seeing for potential Hall of Famers. Like I had mentioned, only played about 4.5 complete seasons fully healthy. I know another guy that played a lot of seasons hurt and maybe didn't exactly have the shine enough to put together a full, complete career, given the circumstances of where he came from. How about another Hall of Famer in the name of Kurt Warner? Yes, 1 Super Bowl victory, 2 other championship appearances as well in the NFC Championships, did play in 3 Super Bowls, but only 1 title. Not exactly the same caliber of player, obviously 2 different positions, 2 different times as well. But you talk about America loves an underdog. That's the story of both those players. Julian Edelman, exactly. He came out of college, had no position to play. In fact, they put him at wide receiver. Didn't even play wide receiver for his first 3 seasons. They put him at return. They put him in the return game as a punt returner. They ended up even playing safety and cornerback at one time, wearing the number 11. Obviously, nowadays, that's going to be a more common sight as well. The one place that Julian Edelman did make his mark in the NFL record books is one of the things that every player strives to be. That's in the postseason. Not only just in the postseason, but in the Super Bowl as well. 115 receptions, 1,412 yards, 18 playoff games only second, those numbers alone, to Jerry Rice, one of the greatest receivers of all time, up there on the Mount Rushmore of NFL wide receivers. Obviously, the argument can be made with, Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, things of that sort. But that is where Julian Edelman made his mark. You needed a crunch time situation and a big catch for the Patriots at that time in his tenure. Postseason is where Julian was going to make the catch. Let's all talk about the fact in some of the biggest games, he did come through. Super Bowl 51, that deflected pass off the foot, off an ankle, off somebody's elbow, mid-air catch against the likes of the Atlanta Falcons, that comeback victory. Pretty significant moment. I think they ended up winning that game as well after being down 28-3. Super Bowl 49, scoring the game-winning touchdown with 2 minutes to go, and especially in the fact that they had the 10-point comeback at that point was the biggest comeback in the Super Bowl at that time, including a key 3rd and 14 first down reception while getting absolutely crushed by Cam Chancellor over the middle. He did finish that game with 9 receptions at 109 yards in that game as well. Again, significant numbers to say the least. 3 Super Bowl titles in his time as well, but also in 5 appearances with the New England Patriots in his time in the NFL. The fact that people are saying that these numbers, these performances, the player itself doesn't matter. The guy is not Kurt Schilling. There's no character clause. There's none of this, offhanded garbage to say that Julian Edelman is not a Hall of Famer. Yes, obviously he's going to make the team Hall of Fame, the Patriots Hall of Fame, but the call to Canton is what I'm not saying he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I'll be the first one to say it. But if you're going to throw in guys that potentially going to make their way in, I've seen some lists saying, particularly Calvin Johnson. Calvin Johnson, I will greatly say, deserves to be in the Hall of Fame for spending his whole career in Detroit, putting up the ungodly numbers and winning only 4 games a season with the numbers that he did put up in his time as well. But also you throw in the fact that other people are saying just because he was in New England, yes, that certainly does help. 3 Super Bowl titles, all the numbers that he's put up. I just want to hear from the zoners to say that I'm a complete moron and I should just keep my mouth shut and stop cheering for a team that cheats, allegedly. Look, Julian Edelman's going to the Hall of Fame. Y'all just going to have to eat your own words when it does happen. But if it doesn't happen, I will gladly come out and say that I was wrong. But we won't know in a minimum of 5 years. We'll talk to everybody in 2026. That is why Jules' call to the Hall is coming for Voldy's Virtues this time around.
Well, zoners, I'm waiting for your guys' responses to this because Voldy makes a good case. Oh, it's good popcorn. Anyway, Voldy, you make a really good case, and I think the zoners, there are zoners that, one important zoner, by the way, that agrees with you. Mama Callahan / Papa Callahan. He is definitely a Hall of Famer. Also, he was on championship Patriot teams.
That's the only opinion that matters right there.
Yeah.
Everybody else can just go away. As long as I got them on my side, that's what matters.
Right. But there's someone that disagrees with you. And this isn't surprising because I disagree with Clancy probably 95% of the time. Edelman has rings, but Brady has basically gifted dozens of dudes rings. He doesn't have the stats at all. But didn't you just explain the stats? I mean, 620 receptions, 6,822 receiving yards, 36 receiving touchdowns, 4 return TDs, most all time in New England. So,
yep,
there's that to factor in as well. The guy was a 7th-round draft pick, too. I mean, you can't... I'm agreeing on the fact that he is not a first-ballot Hall of Famer. Voldy's even admitted it himself. It's going to take time before he is going to... I think they will put him into the Hall of Fame, whether the people that disagree like it or not. And if you disagree with it, I mean, what's the big deal? He's just going to get his jacket. I mean, it doesn't affect anyone else, right? If he gets the jacket, he gets the jacket. Nothing. You can do about that. So there, you got to factor that in as well. All right, we got a response from Mr. Glancy. He won't be a first ballot, obviously. He won't be at all. But there is a bit of biases going on right now. But you could take into account who had where he had played. Yes, he makes the playoffs. Yes, he has 3 rings, but he has less than 7,000 yards all time. Add in the postseason stats, sure, but it's less than 10K. Response, Voldy, what do you think?
Lynn Swann is in the Hall of Fame. He played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He retired at the age of 30. Only 9 seasons in the NFL. Super Bowl MVP, Super Bowl number 10. You know what his numbers ended up being? In total, 48 receptions, 907 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 16 career playoff games. Yet his regular season numbers, Julian blows it all out of the water. 336 catches, 5,462 yards, 51 touchdowns. Okay, he's got him beat in the touchdown category because Terry Bradshaw was throwing the ball out of the yard and it was backyard football back in those days. But if you have Lynn Swann in the Hall of Fame with those numbers in that time as well, I don't understand why you wouldn't have Julian Edelman in there as well. Because let's just say the wide receiving game over time has gotten towards a little bit taller, more athletic kind of a place in the world. Well, maybe about 10, 15 years ago, some guys started coming into the league and changing things. Smaller, quicker receivers as well. One of those guys, Julian Edelman. Obviously, we all know the standard with Wes Welker. He was the guy to kind of bring that into a new fold. Steve Largent. Remember Steve Largent with Seattle back in the day? He's an NFL Hall of Famer. Never won a Super Bowl. Barely played any significant games enough in the postseason to, obviously put up the fact that he was a Hall of Famer. Yes, he did end up becoming like the all-time receiving, receptions leader and receiving yards by the time he retired from the NFL. Those records have been shattered since then, but, obviously the receiving game is one of those where it's variable, we'll say the least, because it all depends on where you played, who you played, what your numbers ended up. But if Lynn Swann, with those numbers, got into the Hall of Fame however long ago, it doesn't say what year he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, but, the case can be also made for the likes of Julian Edelman. Yes, Lynn Swann is one of the, he was a corner for one of the best franchises, and obviously in that time, one of the dynasties for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But Julian Edelman did the same thing in, the 2010s, basically, the during the turn of the century as well. So, that's what I've got to say on that.
All right, another response from Glancy. When did Mr. Swann play? The 70s? Let's talk about someone from this decade. S-word in the last 20 years. Hines Ward. Hines Ward, spell Hines right first, was better than Swann and Edelman and a ring. Still waiting on where to get. Man, your spelling on your phone is terrible. If Ward doesn't make it, Edelman doesn't. What do you say to that?
I think Hines Ward should definitely be in the Hall of Fame as well.
I think Hines Ward should.
I can't disagree with that. Well, Hines Ward played with that second, obviously the second dynasty coming around with Pittsburgh as well. He had some really good years. Played in a lot of meaningful games as well. Kind of was the guy for a long time, too, there in Pittsburgh. I don't see why he's not in the Hall of Fame. Maybe, again, I don't know. Look, it is what it is. People are going to have their own opinions. I have mine. At the end of the day, we're just a couple of donuts, apparently.
Yeah. So. A trio when Mikey's
yes,
on.
A trio of donuts.
Whatever happened to Terry? Do we know what happened to Terry? I don't know. Oh, he that's too bad. We lost a guy named Terry. He called us a bunch of donuts. Oh, that's too bad. But and there's a lot of people. I was hoping there'd be some of the zoners that talked crap before the show, and they didn't come on to tell us live. So,
chickened out.
They'll have to check the replay.
They always do.
Yeah, there you go.
Look, I confronted them. I wanted everybody to call me a moron. Go right ahead. I'm used to it at this point. Call me out, tell me I'm a moron, tell me why Julian Edelman's not coming into the Hall of Fame. But you know what? They all chickened out because everybody is a talker until somebody points a microphone and a camera in their face.
There you go.
Just saying.
Or comments. Glancy
Cowards.
says, well, give Glance some credit, though. He was here, and he tested you. I'm
That's
always
why
here for that smoke. Yeah, I'm always here for that smoke. Yeah, and just wait till we get to the Ponder conversation. I'll decimate you on that one. But anyway, let's see. We got a lot of reactions tonight, and this is we're loving it. So if you guys disagree, please let us know. We'll get you on, and you give us your opinion. I mean, if you're scared of a camera in your face, well, that just means that you're hiding behind a screen. So I don't know. We want the smoke. That's all we want. All right, that'll conclude Voldy's Virtues. Is great Voldy's Virtues, by the way. I'm sure we'll still get comments and things like that later on. But it's time to get to Absurd or Approved. You're not done talking about Julian Edelman, but this isn't Hall of Fame worthy. So let's get it going with some Absurd or Approved.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
All right, it is time for Absurd or Approved. Glancy says, we were talking Mac Jones and how will he be a bust. There's that to factor in. The Vikings didn't take him. He was there, but they didn't take him.
Come on, Garoppolo.
Jimmy G.
Just saying.
Yeah, you want Jimmy G, Voldy. So
bring him
that.
back.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so let's get things going. Voldy, why don't you rattle them off for us, please?
Yeah, this one's going to be pretty much an all football kind of related Absurd or Approved this week. But we do start off as a week ago today that the Carolina Panthers did trade quarterback Teddy Bridgewater to the Denver Broncos for a 6th-round pick in last week's NFL draft. Of course, the Panthers will have to pay $7 million of Bridgewater's money, while another $3 million will go right towards the salary of Teddy Bridgewater after, a pretty down season last year in his first year with Carolina, and also to make room in a very interesting quarterback situation now looking like for the likes of the Denver Broncos as well. Of course, Drew Lock was pretty good in last year's season as well, but you know what? Obviously, fortifying a position that could use a little bit of help behind it as well. Absurd or Approved, Teddy Bridgewater will be starting at some point this season for the Denver Broncos.
Well, before we start off anything, because, we used to have this soundbite play a lot during the Sports Zone.
Teddy B, dip them dots.
Teddy B, dip them dots. I love it. First of all, I feel like a lot of people aren't sold on Teddy. And the thing is, the guy works hard. And he has. And he did for Carolina. He did for the Aints. But we don't talk about that. But at the same time, I think it's got my stamp of approval. I think he will. But let's factor in this as well. There's talks of Rodgers being traded to the Broncos. So, that would suck for Ted to be traded to Denver and then to find out, we just got Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
Awkward. So then you have that to factor in as well. But I think so. I don't think, it's a very big possibility that Rodgers could definitely go to Denver. But I don't foresee it. I just think they already, made their decision. George Patton, he used to work for the Vikings. He was assistant GM to Spiel Daddy. So, I think they're going to stick with Teddy, see how it goes. It's going to be a competition between him and Locke. I think Teddy's going to win the competition because Teddy B dips them dots. But, yeah, it's got my stamp of approval. I really think that Teddy will do well in Denver. It's got Victor's stamp of approval as well. So, yeah, I think Teddy's gonna win the job. I think he's gonna play for Denver. But if Rodgers is there, you don't bench Rodgers after you trade for him. So there's that. All right, Voldy, what do you think?
I think it's got my stamp of approval as well. I think this is going to provide the same kind of opportunity that Teddy got when he went down to New Orleans. You know, obviously injuries do happen. It was a possibility that Teddy could play. And, well, in 5 games that Drew Brees was out, Teddy went 5-0. And he goes and gets a contract with Carolina. New coach, new offensive scheme, and a whole new system being set up in Carolina. Just wasn't quite the right fit. He got hurt a little bit as well this past season, but hopefully going to somewhere where there is at least a little bit of familiarity with the front office there, with a couple of former Vikings in that area as well. Certainly will help him feel a little bit more comfortable and going into a situation where there could quite possibly be that quarterback competition with Drew Lock as well, because, obviously he's still young enough to learn a few things as well with a little bit more experience to the favor of Teddy Bridgewater. And now the whole Aaron Rodgers thing. Look, if I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to go anywhere in a potential situation, there have been some rumblings of San Francisco. Now, it's going to really be predicated on a whole bunch of things as well. If you put Aaron Rodgers in San Francisco, obviously going to be mentoring Trey Lance, and then obviously in his system in an area that he's familiar with, being from California as well. But obviously they got Jimmy Garoppolo, that whole situation, unless the 49ers say bygones and, ship him somewhere as well, maybe get something out of the whole deal too. There's a lot of variables with that. But you know what? For the whole Teddy Bridgewater situation, it's got my stamp of approval.
Yeah, I think if they don't get Rodgers and Rodgers gets traded to San Fran, Vegas, or however the heck that's going to work, I think that would make sense in the fact that Teddy's going to win the job. Teddy B, dip them dots, let's go. So let's see what happens in Denver. I'm intrigued to see what happens. So, all right, next one, Voldy.
Well, some interesting comments from a couple of former teammates that's saying that Tom Brady successfully did recruit a couple of his former Patriot teammates to come down to, the likes of Tampa Bay this past season. That worked out pretty well. They ended up winning the Super Bowl. No big deals with that. But in the NFL Network's Draft-a-thon, the reigning Super Bowl MVP, that being Tom Brady, pause for dramatic effect
there we go,
argued that Julian Edelman, who just, physically retired because he failed his physical, said, "We know Julian didn't retire. Let's be honest, he's just too scared to tell Bill," Belichick that is, "he wants to come to Tampa Bay." Very interesting comments from that as well. From that statement from the GOAT, 7-time Super Bowl champ as well. Observe or approve Tom Brady's comments about Julian being too scared to head down to Tampa Bay.
Well, the thing is, I think he likes to spark the controversy. I firmly believe that because, it's crazy to think that, he retires. But at the same time, is it really Bill? Because I think Gronk was kind of in the same situation. He was sick of Bill, and I think Brady was sick of Belichick as well. There's something weird. There's something eerie going on in New England. And, it's something to where, Brady's done a lot for the franchise and everything along those lines and whatnot, but wouldn't it be something, Voldy, if Edelman was like, "I'm retired, but I kind of want to, play with Tommy,"
Right.
At the same time, but they got so many weapons. They got Godwin, they got Evans. They have Clowntonio. There's that too. They're getting O.J. Howard back. They got Cameron Gronk. There's so many playmakers on this team. So you got to factor that in. Into the situation. Now, the comments that he made, I think he's just trying to get people going. I think it's funny. It's got my stamp of approval. If he goes to Tampa Bay, that just proves, not a lot of people are big fans of Bill Belichick right now. So
right.
It's kind of showing what life is like in New England. So I think that's something to make a note of. And, yeah, it's got my stamp of approval. I think he's just trying to get Julian back on the team just because, well, we got everyone else. Why don't you come on down unretire and come over to Tampa Bay. So it's got my stamp of approval. I think it's funny. So, Voldy, what do you think?
I just find it pretty hilarious as well because you know that Edelman would have taken the first opportunity that he could, especially after last season, to come down to Tampa Bay. But literally, Tampa Bay got literally everyone back and then some. All 22 starters from last year are back for Tampa Bay, which never happens, which literally never happens. They have 7 wide receivers that could be number 1 guys on any other team. We talk about Evans, Godwin, Antonio Brown, Tyler Johnson, Scotty Miller as well. They're going to get O.J. Howard back, Cameron Braid, that Eau Claire guy, and also, some guy by the name of Rob Gronkowski too is back with the Bucks, I should say. I think it's, the comments themselves, I don't think Julian Edelman was scared, but at the same time, I can see why. Because, being with the Patriots, it's like being with the mob. You do anything to upset the family, you're going to probably end up sleeping with the fishes out in the harbor as well. I think it's approved. I think it's all in good fun. But at the same time as well, there's probably a little tongue-in-cheek with those comments, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of those comments actually were true as well. So it's got my stamp of approval.
If it was true, then it's true. I mean, that's kind of how we're going to go with, or what we're going to go with, I should say. But I don't know. You never know. You never know. And that's the same thing we thought. Well, how is Gronk going to get there? Well, the Patriots are like, here, you can take him. He unretired. Oh, you can take him. Okay, there's a way to do it, I guess. So, we'll see. All right, next one, Voldy.
Yeah, and interesting, also kind of sticking with New England as well. It was announced here earlier this week that the New England Patriots will be declining fifth-year options on the likes of, they'll be declining the option for running back Sony Michel, I should say, his rookie contract, as well as exercising the option for Isaiah Wynn. We're going to be talking more about Sony Michel here, especially with the impact that he's had in his short term with the Patriots, too, as he's a fifth-year option coming for the 2022 season will not be picked up as well. Now, we've seen a little bit of turnover. We know how things kind of play out with the Patriots, declining the option as well for a running back factory that is for New England. They've got 6 active running backs. They're all used. They all get playing time. And that's the sad part of it because of the fact that, they don't have any wide receivers. So is it absurd or approved New England declining the option for Sony Michel? What kind of impact will it have for the offense going forward?
Well, he has been very serviceable, and I think you can definitely chalk that up. But I think this comes from a financial perspective. For one, they would have owed Michel a base salary of $4.5 million per over the cap, fully guaranteed, and they wanted to say so. You saw the big splash. I mean, we all saw the big splash in free agency. So, I mean, it's something that he's had some, injury issues too. I mean, granted that happens, but it goes from a financial issue. But the production, it's been there, but has it been to a point to where you're like, we want to pick up that option? And there was a lot of guys that options weren't picked up. Mike Hughes is one for the Vikings. Plenty of other players too. There has been some guys that have had their fifth-year option picked up, but Michel, I'll probably say it's got my stamp of approval here, just because the production has been there. But at the same time, do you want to pick up that fully guaranteed money? It's not a huge hit, but at the same time, from a financial perspective, you want to try and save some money. Not to say that I'm not saying that they won't resign. If he has a stellar, I think this is kind of a prove it again. Here you go. Right. Here you go, Sony Michel. Prove it to us. And if he proves it, then good. If not, then they won't pick it up. But I think they're going through a tough time with their offense. I mean, Cam and everything along those lines too. They picked up some weapons. They didn't have a lot of weapons this past season. And this is something to say, all right, Sony, come on, let's get it going. So, yeah, it's got my stamp of approval. I think this is something to where this is kind of a prove-it moment for Sony Michel. If he doesn't play well, then Bill's going to move on to the next person. So it's got my stamp of approval. Voldy, what do you think?
Yeah, I saw this kind of coming a little bit when the Patriots started leaning more on Damian Harris, guy out of Alabama from a couple years ago. He's been with the team now, and he's pretty much a carbon copy of Sony Michel as well. 14 touchdowns, just over 2,200 yards rushing in 3 seasons with the Patriots. Hasn't been all that bad out of the backfield, but when you have guys like Rex Burkhead, James White as well, Damian Harris in there, along with Sony Michel, that's 4 running backs right there that they use equal time on too. And they just drafted another running back from this year. And, they've invested a little bit more with some more wide receivers in free agency and through other means as well, with Cam Newton back in the fold for another season. We'll see how that all plays out. But again, it's the same situation. Financially, bit of a risk. Same time, he has a really good year. They'll probably re-sign him and maybe make it a little bit more interesting for trade bait, quite possibly.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work out of the well to start the year, because the Patriots have had a knack in the last, half decade as well past a decade too, of having, really good 3-4 seasons with running backs. They either get traded or they just go ahead and re-sign with somebody else. When they had Stephen Ridley all those years ago, guy was a stud with New England. Ends up going play for the Jets, doesn't do anything. LeGarrette Blount, the first iteration, blunt force trauma, ends up just a stud career, a couple Super Bowl rings as well. Yes, he did end up winning a Super Bowl by beating New England, but when he initially went to Pittsburgh, just a dud of a season halfway through. Ends up getting back with the Patriots, ends up winning another Super Bowl ring as well. So something about when you're running back in New England, things usually work out pretty well for you overall. So it's got my stamp of approval.
I think it makes sense. Prove it. That's kind of how it goes. So, all right. Next one, Voldy.
Well, in shocking fashion, that the end of an era, well, I guess we'll say, for the first time since 2010, the NDSU football team, the Bison, fell to Sam Houston State in the quarterfinal round this past Sunday in the FCS playoffs. The first time that the Bison haven't made the semifinals since 2010 after coming back from a deficit at 20, make that a 17-2 deficit. I believe that was the halftime score. Then eventually taking a 20-17 lead in the fourth quarter, only end up losing 24-20 to Sam Houston State. Now that's quite interesting. You throw the whole situation with Trey Lance not sticking out through the spring. Yes, he gets drafted 3rd overall to San Francisco. Great for him. I hope he does fantastic things as well. But basically a new regime starting with freshman quarterback Cam Miller, who was only 7 of 18 for 90 yards and 2 interceptions in the loss. Is this the beginning of the end, absurd or approved, for the NDSU football team?
It's a great question because they've been really good for a long time. Now, I look at everything that they've won, and they've won it pretty handily. Not to say they can't do it again. Obviously, they didn't have Lance. Cam Miller didn't play well. Well, they didn't lose by a huge margin. They only lost by like 4, And not only that, I think there are guys that want to go to that school that enjoy playing football for them. They've already built that program to where it's, people wouldn't think that it would be. And now you're looking at them. They've beaten those D1 schools. The cream of the crop. They've beaten the Kansas State. They've beaten the Gophers before.
Yep.
I don't think it's the end. I really don't think it's the end. I think it's absurd. I think they can bounce back from this. And the thing is some of these colleges, some of these FCS schools don't go away. Sam Houston State's been in this before. There's been a whole slew of these schools that, obviously NDSU's just been a juggernaut, as we put before. But I look at this from the perspective of, okay, we lost this time. We can still build this up. It's not like all the recruits are like, oh, they lost. I don't want to go there. I mean, maybe there are some, but it's going to take a select few to be like, you know what? Even though they lost, I still want to go there. I still want to have a great career. I mean, yes, Carson Wentz hasn't had the best career after NDSU, but he's helped win them a Super Bowl. So there's that too. That season, I should say. But Trey Lance, we got to, the jury's still out. We got to see how he plays, develops and when he starts for the 49ers. So, no, I wouldn't hit the panic button yet if I'm NDSU, and I think they'll be okay. I think so. So, Voldy, what do you think?
It's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, the same situation was a couple seasons ago with the fact that, NDSU had to deal with a new quarterback. Some kid by the name of Trey Lance, Marshall, Minnesota, came into the fold, ended up starting. Didn't lose a single game in his college career. Now he's third overall draft pick by San Francisco. Let's see how good this Cam Miller kid is in 2 years. I'll say this. I'll say that. In 2 years, let's see how he turns out as well. Maybe he'll bring NDSU back into the national limelight as well with competing. Obviously, a strange year overall.
Yeah.
We get back to a normal fall football season. That'd be great for everybody. I also found it interesting the last time the Bison lost in the quarterfinals was back in 2010 against Eastern Washington. That was out in Eastern Washington, and I'm pretty sure that was the game that had 3 straight kickoff return touchdowns, which was very interesting because that was one of the things that kind of stuck out to me about that every time I start thinking about NDSU football, besides the time that they beat the Gophers in the Metrodome all those years ago. But that's another story within itself, too. Do I think it's the beginning of the end? No. I think this team is still this program, I should say, is going to continue to pump out players that will definitely make the NFL and, definitely be in the hunt each year for a national title. Just because, obviously with even all the other coaching changes that have happened, they still put out players. They still put out great teams. Craig Bowl, when he won a couple national titles. The other guy's now at Kansas State. Forget his name off the top of my head. But Matt Entz as well, who's the head coach now for NDSU. Those 3 coaches right there, you would think, this is just we're starting at square one. No, it's not. Same kids being recruited by the coaches that were in that program to begin with. It's not like you're taking a complete outsider and just throwing them in the middle. They're hiring their own coaching staff, bringing in their own recruits and everything. Everything kind of stays internal, like we talked about with the Patriots. It's like the mob. Once you're in, you're pretty much in. And, well, so far it's worked out well. I think this is not the beginning of the end for NDSU. It's just a little speed bump on the road to more success.
It would be a really cool matchup, and obviously I don't know how this person, but if NDSU, has played UND before. I would assume in football, right? I'd like to see Trey Lance go up against Will Rattel. That's what I want to see. We want that matchup. I think it would be amazing.
Oh, baby.
I'm saying, oh, baby. I think it'd be fun.
Dunk contest.
It would. I mean, oof. Yeah, dunk. You could. I mean, that's a good point. Launch 1.0. Is Trey a baller? Probably. You never know.
Almost definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely a baller.
Oh, I'm sure. All right, last one. Voldy.
Well, we couldn't end the Absurd or Approved without talking about our boy Tim Tebow as well. Yeah. Now, it was reported just before the draft last week that Tim Tebow, obviously former NFL quarterback, obviously a former minor league baseball player in the New York Mets organization, apparently worked out with some members of the Jacksonville Jaguars, who's being coached by his former college coach in Urban Meyer, as a tight end, and quite possibly did impress a couple of people that were with the Jacksonville Jaguars organization. 33 years old and quite possibly looking at making a return to the NFL at the tight end position. Absurd or Approved, Tim Tebow quite possibly on the NFL comeback as a tight end.
Absurd. First of all, let's stop with the Tebow time BS, because here's the thing. I like Tebow. I don't have any issue with Tebow. But it's time to give this stuff up, man. I mean, seriously. How many times do we have to go over this? It's to a point, especially while the train's going by. Yeah, go ahead. But anyway, It's just absurd that you have to just give it up, know when to give it up. And he's a great analysis for, I think, the SEC network, ESPN. You know how that all works out. But, it's been reported, and you're like, well, we'll put him, at tight end and everything like that. It's like, Tim, it's time. It's just time to say, we're done. He's 33 years old, which, again, not saying that he's completely just an old man Jenkins out there. But at the same time, can we just stop with that? And also, one other thing to bring up, too. I get Urban Meyer's the head coach. Oh. That was weird. We went right to absurd or approved right there. I hit the wrong button.
There you go.
Anyway, yeah, it's absurd. I mean, it's absurd. It's time to hang up the cleats, Tim. It's really time to hang up the cleats. I'm sick and tired of going through this all the time with, I might come back. I might not. I'm going to play baseball. I'm going to do this. Just be an analyst and just call it good. That's where I'm at. Voldy, what do you think?
I just found it very interesting how this all came about because, I think it's just Tim Tebow trying to stay relevant is the thing. He tried the whole baseball thing, came close, but if it wasn't for 2020 and shutting down that whole season, shutting down minor league baseball and everything, it would have been an interesting situation this year to see if Tebow would have had a chance at making the New York Mets. But working out, this was the spot that they wanted Tim Tebow to go in as back in 2010 when he was being drafted. They wanted him to be a tight end initially. He said, nope, I want to be a quarterback. Worked really hard and ended up getting drafted by Denver. That whole situation ended up winning a playoff game, or some people saying that Demaryius Thomas won that football game, even though he had a horrible, horrible career in the likes of Denver. Then ends up going to the Jets, ends up going to New England after that for a hot second. But I just don't see this happening any way, shape, or form, in a good way, that is. I think it's going to do more harm than good. It's been a few years since he took a hit. So, exactly. We all know how tough of a player he was in college and in the NFL as well. But you know what? Taking a few years off certainly does the body a few favors, but first time he gets popped, he probably won't be getting up as quick. I think it's completely absurd. I think Tebow time needs to stop.
Go away. Just needs to go away. And I don't hate Tim Tebow, and that's the thing. I don't want to get it twisted. I think he's a great guy and everything like that. But it's time to call a spade, as we like to say. It's time to ride off and into the sunset. And don't even bring up the term of quarterback at this point either with Tim Tebow. So just throwing that out there. But anyway, I think that'll do it for ARA this week. Great job as always, Voldy. Now it's time for some Shield shoutouts. One involving Byron Buxton. So let's get it rolling with some Shield shoutouts.
Shield shoutouts.
All right, Voldy, it's time for Shield shoutouts. Who you shouting out tonight? What do you got?
Hey, definitely want to give a big Shield shout out to all those that were talking that trash before we talked about Voldy's virtues tonight, saying that Julian Edelman was not a Hall of Famer. You guys are the real MVPs for not showing up, for being a bunch of cowards as well. Then tell it straight to my face on the show that I'm an idiot.
Bro, I've been here the whole time.
You guys are the real MVPs. Big Shield shout out to all those that were not showing up tonight as well. Big Shield shout out to Anaheim Ducks goalie Ryan Miller. Now, the name does sound familiar, as he was the main goalie for Team USA in the 2010 Olympics as well, and finishing up as a silver medalist in 2010 in Vancouver. Well, he announced his retirement effective at the end of this season, which is only about a week and a half away for most teams as well. Will retire as the winningest American goaltender in NHL history, and a career that started off with Buffalo. He ended up going to Vancouver, played in St. Louis for a couple of seasons, and also finishing out here with the Anaheim Ducks as well. Never thought he'd really amount amount to much, especially with a couple of dead years in Buffalo. But Ryan Miller turned in a pretty nice career as well. He'll retire as one of the greats as well. Big Shield shout out to Ryan Miller on his impending retirement. Shield shout out goes to the AL Player of the Month for the month of April, that being Byron Buxton, first Minnesota Twins player to be named Player of the Month since Edelman Young in 2010.
Let's go.
That's how long it's been when it was Edelman Young winning Player of the Month. Even crazier. Byron did hit .426, 8 home runs, 8 doubles, 14 RBIs, did score 15 runs for the Twins in the month of April, as well as the American League Player of the Month. And another Shield shout-out here this week goes to Arkansas and former Last Chance U running back Rakeem Boyd, as he signed a undrafted free agent deal to go to the Detroit Lions. Now, he did star for season 3 of the hit Netflix show Last Chance U for Independence Community College after transferring down from Texas A&M, and after his time at Independence, ended up going to Arkansas and ended up being a pretty good career in his own right there with the Razorbacks, and ends up getting signed into the NFL as well. So big Shield shout outs all around. A short list here this week, but I'll do it for Shield shout outs this week.
Hey, short but sweet. We love it. Especially the Buxton thing. But the thing is the Twins haven't been playing like they should. Especially Buxton playing this well. But more on that probably next week. We'll get to the Twins. And I think, they're losing 3-1 right now. Interesting.
Oh, boy.
Interesting. I think it's still 0-0 with the Wild as well, if people were interested to know about that. So, go Wild. I'm sure we'll be watching here at the end of MinneZona here. But we are not done yet. As always, we got to talk about our... our shirts, our stickers. We got shirts. We got stickers. I believe sweatshirts have been ordered for the zoners that have gotten their sweatshirts. So they are coming. I think they have been ordered. Jimbo will get them to you. But yes, Voldy, we have our MinneZona stickers. Now, the thing is we got to give some congratulations to Mr. Blake Hockert for winning a free MinneZona sticker. He said the Vikings would trade back. We did a little giveaway thing. They would trade back, and he was right. He won himself a mini MinneZona bumper sticker. So congrats to Blake for getting that free. But that's okay, zoners, because these are only $2 to $3, depending on which one you get. There's some awesome stickers there. If you want some, let us know. And if you want a shirt, well, shoot. I mean, they're only $20, $5 shipping. Glancy, I'm talking to you. You said, well, where's mine? Well, you can go get it your damn self. That's where you can get it. You go to Venmo, you talk to me, you talk to Voldy, you talk to Jimbo, talk to the Kirk Doctor. We'll get you set up. $20, $5 shipping. All right, also, shout out to National Fleet Graphics, Crown Rental, Tyler Knudsen for getting us these awesome stickers. And W2 Performance, things are going well for Mr. Rattel. He's been posting videos. And also make sure to check out the Barbell Nerds. They have stickers, $2. Make sure you check it out. Maybe we have Rattel on. I don't know. Work in progress. We'll get there. Also, remember, Jack O'Keefe, Jack's Junkyard as well, now with apparel. And I don't know why this keeps popping up. Computer. Stop it. Just don't. I'm already sick of it. But anyway, we're loving what he's been doing as well. Shout out to Jack. He's got apparel. Jack's Junkyard Season 2 is still going on. And also, make sure to check out the Breaking Into the League with Sam Gabrielli, Ryan Martin, available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I think we know that Voldy's name is Vold, not Void, or anything like that.
Honest mistake.
We like giving him.
He was in the ballpark.
We're giving him hell for it, and he was a good sport about it. So he feels bad, but it's fun giving people crap. So there's that as well. But anyway, a very fun show tonight. Obviously, that whole Edelman thing. There are people that are saying he shouldn't be, but then they never give a reasoning why. Hey,
because they didn't even show up.
Yeah, they didn't show up.
That's
there's
on them.
that. And then Victor says, yep, 0-0, second just started. So there you go. There we go. So anyway, we appreciate all the zoners tuning in tonight, and we'll be back next week. We're going to have another great show and probably more fun. So, and, always, folks, keep it in the zone.
Holla.
Thank you for watching MinneZona Sports Live. Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for live show broadcast. And as Voldy likes to say, follow us on all the socials medias.